everybody, Henry Becker with Lighthouse Wealth Management. Hope this video finds you doing as well as can be expected in the current alternate universe that we apparently are living in from our homes and whatnot. Everyone here at Lighthouse is doing fine. Office is open. Some of us are working from home, some of us from the office, some bit of both. So if you need us, we're here, so feel free to reach out. But this is just a quick video to give you some updates on some of the stimulus plans, markets, and so forth. So let's just jump right into one of the hottest topics right now coming into Lighthouse, which is, or hottest questions, which is, where's my payment from the government? And we're going to call those the economic impact payments. I read that somewhere, so we'll just call it, my military background will tell you it's going to be an EIP, economic impact payment. So the EIP payments should come as direct deposit. Again, let's caveat, if you're due a payment, meaning you're below the income thresholds for married, filing joint, or single, and you think you're going to be getting a payment from the government, it would come to you via direct deposit if your last filed tax return had bank information and you were due a refund. So let's pretend in 2019 you already filed for 2019 or 2018, and you were due a refund from the government and you put your bank information for them to directly deposit it. If that's you, then you should, and you're due a payment from the government, you should see a direct deposit coming to you at some point. Some people have already started to get them, but it's going to take a while. There's a lot of people. Now, for everybody else, the IRS is going to mail you a check. Now, you can hasten the process because, as I'll get to, the check process for them is going to be a long one. You can hasten the process in going to the website below me right now, or you can look in the video notes below here on YouTube, and we'll put a link down there if you don't want to write it down. A lot easier that way. But if you were not one of the people I just talked about, then a check's to be mailed. If you want to hasten the process, you go to the website we just pointed to, and you can fill in bank information, and hopefully you can get the check faster than otherwise. Now, the check process, our internal super sleuth, Katie Chase, found a few very reputable sources, and not directly from the IRS because they're not really publishing anything, but she got some really good information showing that the check process is going to be stretched out between now and possibly as far as September. And what they're doing is, if your adjusted gross income was under $10,000, the first checks were going out this week, the week of April 23rd, April 24th. And then the next week, a week later, they'll do the next window, the AGI between 10,000 and 20,000. And then the next week, they'll do AGIs between 20 and 30. So meaning, if your adjusted gross income was $180,000, which means you would be due a payment, an EIP payment, then it's going to be many, many, many months from now before those checks will be distributed. So to recap it, if you on your last filed tax return had bank information and you were due a refund on that return, you should be looking for a direct deposit. If not, if your last filed tax return had bank information, but you owed money in, meaning they were going to pull the money out, that's not the same. So you need to go, if you want to hasten those checks, you need to go to the website below in the show notes here and go in and fill in the information. Make sure when you do that, when you fill in that information, when you do that, make sure you use the primary taxpayer, meaning if you're married, filing joint, whoever's name shows up first on that tax return, make sure you use that person's information for giving your information to the IRS to hasten these payments. If this is confusing, again, feel free to call into the office. We'll try to explain it more clearly, but I think I've done a pretty good job, hopefully. So I'm going to move on. Step 2 here on stimulus. The The U.S. government is in the process of teeing up the next small business relief package. It's, I think, about $450 billion. This small business, self-employed, and so forth. On our website, on Lighthouse's website, we have links right on the homepage to some information that will help if you're questioning, am I eligible for this kind of stuff as a small business or a self-employed person? So feel free to go on and look at those things. And again, if not, feel free to call in. We can try to help guide you if that's the case. So let's shift gears for a second and talk about markets and oil prices. So markets first. Obviously, stock market's done pretty well in the last few weeks, clawing back some of the losses that we saw earlier in the crisis or earlier in April and late March, where we were seeing significant downside. But at the same time, we're seeing the economy is not doing well. Lots of job losses and just dislocations everywhere. So there's a certain disconnect between the market and the economy. And we would chalk that up to the market is very optimistic right now. The investing market's optimistic on what we think are two things. One is the central bank backstopping with globally low interest rates, liquidity being provided to banks, which are in turn providing loans, and, government stimulus programs. And then also there's the optimism that the global economy is going to reopen sooner rather than later. Who knows how that's going to work out? Obviously, we're seeing some places saying they're going to reopen, other places saying they're not. We have some states, some cities. I mean, we just don't know how this is going to play out. Nobody knows. What we do know is it looks like, from a market perspective, that so long as the return to normal, or whatever normal is on the other side of this, whatever that looks like, if that time horizon's shorter, obviously the market's going to take that very well. And that's what's, I think, baked in right now. We know that the market understands that what we're going through, or what we've just gone through for the last few weeks, that's going to provide really bad earnings and bad numbers. It's kind of in there in the market already. But if the time horizon to normalcy seems like it's going to get further off, then that would be probably something that would trigger the market to roll over and start heading south again. But again, we have no idea how this is going to play out. Whether it's the weather helps us out, or who knows. We just don't know. But as you might guess, we're doing our absolute best to navigate ourselves through what are unprecedented territory. Speaking of unprecedented territory, we're going to touch on oil prices here for a minute. You might have seen some of the news that a barrel of oil was at a negative price. This was the first time ever. It happened this past week. The May futures contract for a barrel of oil came due this past week. So the futures market, the futures contract market, is where oil prices are set. And there's a new contract every month. So the May contract came due, even though at the end of April here. And what happened was, a lot of people that speculate in the futures market, meaning they have no interest in claiming a barrel of oil that is tied to the futures contract. They're just in there trading based on supply and demand and trying to make a few bucks off of the trading. So what happened was, going into this corona environment that we're in right now, there was a lot of oil. We already had an excess supply, a glut of oil. Now, with demand having fallen off globally for oil, there's nowhere to put the stuff. I mean, the current oil infrastructure is not built for a shutdown of the global economy. And so oil gets, where do you put it when you're not using it? And so that's where we've gotten to. So when this May contract expired, people were like, wait a minute, I have nowhere to put the oil. And the people with contracts were like, look, I'll pay you to take it off. I'll pay you to take this off my hands. So paying somebody to take something off your hands is a negative price, right? So that's where we've gotten to in the oil market. And this is important because The energy industry is big in the United States. We're the biggest right now. The United States is the biggest provider of oil in the world. So we have a lot of jobs tied to it. And if the oil industry hits a train wreck, then there's going to be even more job losses in the United States. And that's not something we'd be looking forward to. So we wanted to bring it up just to make you aware that, that's something we're keeping our eye on, because it's an important part of not just the U.S. economy, but the global economy. So again, if you guys need us for anything, we're here. Again, we hope everybody's doing well. And if you do need us, give us a call, shoot us an email, and hope everybody's doing well. Thanks for watching.